right, let's get this bad boy going. Got an absolutely packed show from top to the bottom. We got Billy Liucci coming on here to talk some A&M, but want to give you a quick update, baseball update, World Series update. It's almost curtains for the Yankees, boys. Down 3-0. And you know, if you're trying to look for a silver lining, if you're a Yankees fans, because it's been bad. I mean, it's so bad. I saw a stat today that Aaron Judge has a worse batting average than Lou Gehrig did in the World Series, but Lou Gehrig had ALS.
No way.
Like I just saw that again.
Need a hit tonight.
You better
get those brooms out.
You're going to let a guy with Al's have a better batting average than you.
Get those brooms out.
But if you're a Yankees fan, maybe the silver lining is the Red Sox came back on y'all down 3-0. One of the most famous things in history. But that was the ALCS to get to the World Series. Mm-hmm. The Yankees could, and I know it's not against the Red Sox, so maybe there's an argument there, but they could usurp that by coming back down 3-0 in the World Series. Blaine, what say you?
No, it's over with.
It's over?
It's been over with.
Are you going to make a video?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You should make a video after it ends.
I will. I mean, I said it, and I've been saying it. There's a dark cloud. It's a dark cloud in New York with my face on it, and you'll never win it. You'll never win it.
Get close.
Are they going to get swept, though?
And you could win it this year. All right? You could do it today.
You apologize.
The comeback. The greatest comeback ever. All right? If you just post a video of you apologizing to me on X.
Well, you know, I did see.
Is that a hard thing to do? You do it all the time.
I did see. We had a fan of the show, well, our buddy Steven, sent me the bookmark tweet of when the Yankees put that out. I think it was 2022, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe at first when they put it out, you were just so excited that you were on there that like underneath the tweet, you were like, let's go, like Yankees. And then you watched it and realized that, you know, they CNN.
Yeah, well, of course I was excited.
Well, I'm just saying, you may want to go back.
Were you excited the first time you met Batman?
Yeah, what?
Yeah, you get pretty excited.
I was up there on the roof
because you littered 3 days before.
Yeah, with Commissioner Gordon. David, quickly, everybody's excited, or maybe not excited, but everybody's talking about this event next Tuesday that's going on, the election or whatever. But can we talk about there's something that ends with Shin that's even more important than the election is Maction.
Maction.
It's not. No, that's not. No, but we got Maction starting next week.
Maction.
So if you want to stay away from political stuff, we got some, I think it's like Central Michigan, Bowling Green, something like that. Just real nasty.
Maction, Sun Belt, Fun Belt. Those are the wheels of America right there.
That is true. It's the backbone of America.
Fun fact for you, World Series, there have been 21 sweeps in World Series history. None since 2012, though.
Wow. How many, well, you probably don't have that. How many did the Yankees sweep? Because I went and watched the Red Sox-Yankees Netflix series about that Red Sox comeback and like the build-up to it. The amount of World Series the Yankees have won, if you don't know, is insane.
Six of those
since
sweeps,
Babe Ruth got traded to the
Yankees. Of those sweeps in a row were the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I don't want this, guys. I don't want this. I want the Yankees to win a World Series. But I can't let this
boys.
Go on.
Dodgers swept the Yankees in 1963.
The Badgers?
That was a hell of a series.
The Dodgers.
That was a hell of a Cold War.
But Badgers have contributed nothing to our society.
Well, as we said, the Dodgers take a 3-0 lead over the Yankees. Let's see if they can close them out in the sweep. Billy Liucci from Texas is going to join us to discuss A&M's chances to win the SEC and more. And we preview Georgia, Florida, Oregon, Michigan, and what they got cooking in Boulder, Colorado. I'm Jake Crain. Hit that subscribe button, and you better lock in. It's the Tuesday edition of Crain & Company. There really isn't a whole lot of in-between when it comes to Coach Prime in Colorado. Most people either love them or they can't stand them. But at this point in the season, they're 6-2. They're still in the conference title hunt, possibly the playoff hunt. And even though you may not like how the sausage is made, breakfast sure does taste pretty good right now out there in Boulder, Colorado. We can argue whether it's more of the Big 12 being down somewhat or Colorado just being that much better. You can scream that it's all going to go away once Shadur and Travis Hunter leave, but you can't argue with the results right now. Colorado isn't just surviving, they are thriving. And it's not solely because of the skill position. In fact, I could argue their come-up has been more about the line of scrimmage punching above their weight. We knew the Buffs had studs on the outside and at quarterback, but the biggest worry, and it was a very warranted worry, was that the offensive line and the defensive line is what would hold them back. Because you can believe whatever you want, but the truth about football will always be that it's a game that is won and lost up front. Now, is Colorado elite on either side of the line of scrimmage? No, but they don't have to be because they are in some other areas. They just had to be good enough up front. And over halfway through this year, they have been. So you can not like the way Prime operates or Cignetti operates or anybody else operates, but you have to respect the result. And so far in 2024, Colorado has proven many people wrong. And who knows what the future will look like, but the president is spoken for, and Colorado is absolutely eating right now. David Cone, another guy who loves to eat, can eat a lot.
That's true.
That's a 6'7" giant of a man from the Michigan quarterback. And then my brother, as you can tell, very cordial individual, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crain. That was a compliment. Be quiet. Coney.
Didn't feel like it.
It was. Maybe backhanded, but it was. When you look at Colorado, we've talked about it, and there's some things I like about the way they operate. There's some things I don't, but it's like that for me for everybody, right? And Colorado isn't everybody's cup of tea. But what they've done this year is really, really impressive. And it goes to show you that, Prime may be somewhat new to this, and I know a lot of it has to do with having Shadur and having Travis, but he did get them there. And at the end of the day, the result on the field is what matters the most. I mean, they're 6-2, man.
Also, there seem to be fewer distractions out there in Boulder right now than last year, but even than at the beginning of the year. And the most impressive things for me so far are they look like a team that continues to improve throughout the season, right? This isn't a situation where Deion Sanders has just assembled all sorts of top talent, but then they don't develop them and coach them throughout the season. It looks like this team is getting better throughout the year. Couple stats here to back that up. One, Colorado hasn't lost the turnover battle to any opponent since the loss to Nebraska. And keep in mind, that was the worst loss of them for the season. They also rushed for 16 yards in that game. Fast forward to their loss against Kansas State, they rushed for negative 29 yards, right? Like those are two bad statistics. In the 2 weeks since that Kansas State loss, they've outrushed their opponents and they've rushed for over 100 yards in each of those two games. They're clearly making an effort to get the ground game working because of all the elite pieces they have on the outside. They say, hey, we're going to be able to move the football down the field. We have to control the line of scrimmage more, and I think they're making an effort to do that. If you look at their schedule moving forward, you go on the road to Texas Tech, you get Utah at home, Kansas on the road, and then Oklahoma State at home. They are favored in every one of those football games. And so the question, I think that's worth talking about is if you were to win those 4 games, you'd be 10-2. Obviously, you still lose the head-to-head to Kansas State, and you don't get a crack at either one of the top 2 teams in the conference right now, BYU or Iowa State. So you need some help. They don't control their own destiny. But would you rather finish the season 10-2 and not even make it into the conference championship? So there's no opportunity to pick up a third loss, but there's also no opportunity to get the automatic qualifier into the college football playoff. Or would you rather go 10-2, win out, stay out of the conference championship, and just hope the Deion Sanders brand is big enough to get you in at 10-2.
Well, that's the scenarios we've been kind of wargaming. Is the loser of the conference championship game, or is it worth it for some of these teams? And I think it depends on your conference, unless you have some sort of asterisk that pulls you over the line or that is so big, right, that they almost have to put you in. It would be business malpractice, because don't forget, this is a business. It would be business malpractice for them not to put you in. Because you can say whatever you want about meritocracy. After what they did to Florida State last year, I believe they'll do anything, whether it's a 14 playoff, 18 playoff, or 12-team playoff. So to me, for the scenario to work out where Colorado, they want chaos in the Big 12. They want BYU to lose. They want Iowa State to lose. And I think they should want a shot at the conference championship game because it gets you that automatic bid. But until we know how any of this stuff works out, I don't think it's a crazy thing at all to say a 10-2 Colorado team out of the Big 12 would be very, very attractive. And I don't think they would need as much chaos on the outside as some other teams would need. And I'm talking about the ACC and the Big 12, not the Big 10 and the SEC. I think 10-2 pretty much locks you into the playoff in those two conferences. But Blaine, if you're on the committee and they've talked about some of the qualifications to get in the playoff, obviously record, strength of schedule. But you've heard people talk about ticket sales, and they want views, and they want clicks. And if Prime has a chance to get into the playoff,
they're putting them in the playoff.
I think they would they would be willing to piss off a lot of people to put Colorado on.
Oh, the sacrifices they're willing to make to put Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter in the playoff. If they go 10-2, they're in.
Even if they don't play in the conference championship?
Yeah, they're in. They'll get put over so many teams. So many teams just because of the ticket sales, just because of the ratings. Look, if I'm Deion Sanders and I'm Colorado, I'm trying to get out everything this year. I'm trying to get every last drop of the squeeze out of Colorado because he's done after this.
See, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. And here's why. Let me just tell you why, and then you tell me why you think that.
Okay.
My question for Deion Sanders wasn't could he get talent to Colorado, regardless of how he went about it, whether it was out of high school or the transfer portal or whatever. That was never my question. Okay, and I don't think it should be a question. I think Deion is going to have, especially when you see where like Shedeur and all these guys are going to get drafted and Travis Hunter. My question wasn't about him getting talent there. It was being a new head coach, and he still was somewhat of a new head coach. I know he was in the HBCU, then he came over here. It's structurally. It's the machine. Can you do all the things to keep the culture where it's supposed to be and keep the machine operating like it is well-oiled in all of the aspects? Because a head coach's job isn't just to bring in talent. There's so much more that comes along with that. And Deion, it's almost extra with what he has to bring. And it's proven to me, back to David's point, when you look at the way this team has grown and evolved, that structurally they have something figured out. Like he isn't lost in the wilderness trying to figure out how to put this organization together, because that's what it is. So if the question is he going to be over because he can't bring talent in? I think that is the best case scenario if you're a Colorado fan, because there's no way in hell that Prime isn't going to be able to get top players to go to Colorado, whether that's from the transfer portal, whether that's from high school, whatever. You got Jordan Seaton last year, #1 overall offensive lineman in the country, who's playing. He's pretty damn good as a freshman. They'll have Juju Lewis. I think there's a really good chance they're going to get him to a quarterback. So if it comes down to getting talent in there, that is best case scenario if I'm a Colorado fan, because I think they're going to stay with talent.
I think never be a problem though, right?
No,
that's not what you're saying, is it?
No, it's not. Two things. One, I think he's probably going to follow his son wherever he gets drafted to in the NFL. Depends on where he goes. Two, I just think Deion will get a better job at a better school, at a bigger school. I don't know where exactly yet. We'll see what it shakes out. But I feel like he will have, just like Signetti in his first year, will have the opportunity to go somewhere bigger. I think Deion will, what he's done at Colorado, will have the opportunity to get a better job.
So if Colorado goes 10-2 and they put him in the playoff, why would Prime want to leave when they just put a 10-2 coach team that he just got hot, that's really hot right now, that he can coach at forever?
For a better, for a better job, for like
more
money in NIL, better for
Colorado. Find a way to get him money.
Conference.
Colorado find a way to get him money. I don't think there's a money problem.
So you don't think there's any job that he would go to that's better than Colorado?
I wouldn't say that. I think the NFL is probably a better possibility than what college is. I think if he left Colorado, it would be to go to the NFL. They're not going to fire Mike Norvell.
You undercut his best asset, though, which is what you said, recruiting. Like in college, it's the same thing with Nick Saban. Why would I go to the NFL and get one first-round draft pick when I can go to college and get 20 of them in the same class? And that's what Deion Sanders' strength is. So why would you just go to the NFL and be a head coach when the general manager is the one assembling the team?
Because I think Deion Sanders, in order to take that NFL job, would have so much cachet, because I think he's still got more cachet in the NFL than he does in college. I mean, if you remember Deion Sanders, we can go back to his Florida State playing days, and that was huge, but people remember him with the Cowboys. So to me, I think he views himself as one of the best coaches in the country, and the NFL is the top level of football in the country. I just think he's that type of guy. Now, here's the real thing. Do I think he loves recruiting? I really don't think he does that much. I don't think he doesn't even go do in-home visits. So in the NFL, you are picking who you want. Now, when it comes down to Shedeur and where he goes, I think Prime would like to do that. That'd be something that'd be cool. But don't you think it'd be hard for like an open NFL job to then take Shedeur or hire Prime first? Like, how would that work out? Does he pull an Eli Manning and say, if this team drafts me, I'm not going to go? This team's going to hire my dad, so I'm going to go here. I just saw
Bronny James run out on the court with his dad, and then
that's another great
promoted to a whole different league after getting drafted. So.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on the team too and what situation they're in. But I do think, like, if USC called Prime,
but they're not going to fire Lincoln Riley this year. They're not going to fire him this year.
If Ole Miss.
So if Lane Kiffin went to Florida, you think Deion Sanders is going to go to Ole Miss? He's going to go to Mississippi.
You think he'd take that job?
I don't think he would.
Florida State.
They're not going to fire Mike Norvell.
If they did.
Well, if a giraffe came in here on roller skates, I'd be afraid. That's not going to happen.
Ohio State.
think Ohio State could be one of the few where he would look at it. I mean, I think he'd be crazy not to look at it, but I think he'd probably leverage that back with Colorado. I don't
always seen it as a guy who wanted to coach his kids in college.
And then
he wanted to coach his
NFL?
kids in college. I don't know about the NFL. I don't know why an NFL team would say, yeah, I'll hire Deion Sanders to be the head coach when he can't. It's not about recruiting at the NFL level. And they just had 2 generational talents who might go number 1 and number 2 overall. And you're playing in one of the weaker conferences in college football, and that's justification for hiring. Unless it's just a brand play.
But that's who Deion is.
But then, so at that level, I mean, who are you bringing in as the coordinator? I guess are the big questions. Like, who's calling plays at that point?
I can't.
It seems like he would be able to follow the Nick Saban route so much more in college.
Well, David, I think you're right, but I think you're looking at this from a different point of view than what he's looking at it from. That's just my opinion. Again, I don't know him. We don't know him personally. I mean, we've interacted on social media a couple times, but part of me thinks that, Deion Sanders views himself as an NFL coach. I feel like he's the type where if I'm going to get into something, I want to go to the highest level. Right? In the NFL, I mean, we all know this. We talk about this all the time. It's way different than colleges. I actually think, with the way they recycle coaches, who the hell knows? Dirk Cutter may end up being his OC. You know how it goes in that league. Part of me thinks that Prime, and to your point, if he just wanted to coach his kids in college, then why not try and coach them in the NFL?
You see what I'm saying, though? Like, if you're Colorado, it makes complete sense. Like, let's hire Deion Sanders, and he will be a magnet for talent, which is exactly what's happened, right? Yep. For a program that won 1 game before he got there that's been down and out. If you're an NFL team, that magnet doesn't maybe his son could say, I'm not going to play anywhere that my dad's not.
What do you think, free agents would want to go play for Prime?
Maybe you can leverage one guy. The free agency thing could be interesting for sure. But, again, I think a free agent is thinking, well, where can I make the most money? There's still salary cap consideration. Smart, yeah. There's still state taxes considerations, depending on which team you would go to. So it's not like you can just go anywhere you want as an open transfer portal in college.
It's going to be fascinating to see. And if he stays at Colorado, to see what happens next year and see what kind of methodology he uses to try and amplify that roster to replace what he's lost. I mean, nobody knows but Prime, but it's a fun conversation. We want to know what you guys think in the chat. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. But speaking about Colorado, they're off this week, but there are some great matchups this week in college football. We still got the World Series going on. There's NHL. The NBA's back for like the 9 of you guys that care. And you can even bet on politics when you head over to betonline.ag to place your bets today. And if you use promo code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, you get a 50% sign-up bonus of up to $250. Plus, BetOnline's tossing a free 100 spins in their casino for all who sign up ahead of this year's presidential election. And you better hurry. It's a week from today, so make sure you go to betonline.ag. Use promo code BOOSTER, BOOSTER. BetOnline, where the options are endless, and so is the fun. The website's really easy to navigate. We talk about that all the time. The payout methods are very versatile. Depending on how you want to get paid out, it's very trustworthy. That's why we got the BetOnline Jumbotron behind us. And again, like I said, if you want to bet on politics, not exactly our cup of tea, but you need to make sure and check out betonline.ag and use promo code BOOSTER. All right, let's get to the chat. Then let's move on here as we get ready to bring Billy Liucci on.
All right, chat, what's up? Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. We're going to start the day off with Titan and a $5 donation. Appreciate it, Titan. But fellas, could you see Deion and Shedeur to the Raiders?
I mean, I could see Deion and Shedeur basically anywhere if it works out like that. I mean, if I could see Deion and Shedeur at the Saints. They fired Dennis Allen, just the way that it works. I don't know. It's a fascinating storyline to me because it could go so many different ways, and I think they're all plausible, and you can make a logical argument for it. But I think probably the most interesting part of all of it to me is, and this is tough to compare, but is Shedeur more valuable as a player than Prime is as a coach in the NFL? I think that's kind of
I think he's playing his way into that for sure. And the Raiders is interesting because they currently have a head coach who was a former NFL player. So they've clearly shown we'll go out on a limb for guys who played in the NFL. Dan Campbell, having the success he has, does nothing but help too.
No, without a doubt.
All right, let's go to the Gambler. He says, Prime has too much control. There's no SEC team that's going to give him that control. It's just not going to happen. I promise you, it simply won't.
I actually disagree with that because if Georgia will give Kirby Smart control, if Ole Miss will give Lane Kiffin control, SEC teams want to win. All right, if they think getting Deion Sanders in and these are Deion's demands and you're all in on Deion Sanders, they're going to give him control. I don't think that's the question. The question is, do you want, if you're a Deion Sanders, if you're going to stay in college, to leave a nest that you've already built up where you can win 7 games a season and be a hero forever, especially if it's the right 7, or then go to the SEC that just added Texas and Oklahoma, I just don't know if that's a great business decision.
Let's go to Michael Affa, hashtag Ask the Boys. In your opinion, why is Shedeur not on the Heisman finalist list? Everyone calls him the best quarterback in the nation, but he's never in the conversation.
I think it's Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point.
Isn't he just getting overshadowed by Travis Hunter?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe they'll both be finalists. I remember that one year, Mac Jones, Najee Harris were both finalists the year that Devontae Smith won it for Alabama.
Yeah, that's exactly
all three in the same backfield.
And let's see how they finish. There's still a long way to go. There's a lot of Heisman moments to be had. So don't be surprised if he pops back up there if Colorado keeps winning. But let's go ahead and get these previews, D.
All right, let's see. First one up here. Let's start with hold on, my computer's malfunctioning. Let's start with Florida and Georgia. Okay, one of the best rivalries in college football. Obviously, Florida this year, they're 4-3 right now. Georgia's 6-1. This line opened at -17. Right now, it's -16.5. Georgia over under 52.5. You guys think Florida has a chance?
Well, when you look at, I think it's more about Georgia than it is about Florida, because if Georgia plays well in this game, and I like Lagway, and I like some of the pieces that Florida has. We've talked about their front 7 on defense and how they do have talent. I know it doesn't always shine through, but if Georgia goes out there and plays poorly on offense and turns the ball over, this Florida team, I think, has enough talent to not only cover, but make this thing a little scary in the fourth quarter. Because you can say what you want about Florida, and there's been games where they've looked awful. The Miami game, they got ran out of the gym. A&M was able to kind of handle them with a young quarterback down there. But then you watch them against Tennessee, and you watch sometimes the way these guys elevate their gameplay. Because make no mistake, we can point fingers and laugh at Florida and all this and all that. They still got some players that are pretty good. And the longer that Florida hangs around in this game, if it is an ugly, mucky, Carson Beck's not able to find it, they're turning the ball over, the run game isn't working a lot, and Florida's in this game at halftime, I think it could be really scary, because a lot of people say, hey, it's a young quarterback in DJ Lagway going out there against this Georgia defense. He's got no chance. Sometimes when you're that young, you're too dumb to realize that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, right? And he does have some experience. So should Georgia win this game? It's a rivalry game. I think they should. Georgia's the better team overall. That front 7 on defense seems to kind of figured it out and starting to look like old Georgia with what they did to Texas. They should be very confident flying high. But the longer Florida hangs around in this game, if they're able to stop the run and make Carson Beck consistently beat them through the air, Florida's going to have to play clean, Cone. We've watched them. They rarely play clean, but they played pretty clean against Tennessee, and they were able to hang in it. I just think this is more about Georgia than it is about Florida.
Blaine, Carson Beck, 8 interceptions. Bless you.
Thank you.
8 interceptions in the past.
Damn, I'm dying. Continue.
Bless you.
Thank you.
8 interceptions in the past 4 games. Does that alone mean that Florida can keep from getting demolished in this game?
This is an interesting game to me. I feel like the spread's a little bit too much. I'd put it down to 13.5, 14.5. Just remember, this in Texas that Georgia is playing a little bit different ingredients to this football team when it comes to Florida. DJ Lagway, mobile guy, they're going to get him out of the pocket. The one thing Georgia did really good last week is getting to Quinn. It's a lot harder to get to DJ Lagway and get him on the ground. And this is the same thing we say about Georgia. They're a little bit different cup of tea of a Georgia team we're used to seeing. I know it was different last week with ETN and on the ground, but Florida from a front 7 standpoint is pretty good. I think Florida can hang around in this football game. I think Georgia is the better team and will win, but I think it'll be a little closer than what people think.
Cone, if and it's funny, everybody, and I want to make sure and make this distinction. When we say that this Georgia team doesn't seem like the Georgia team from the past 3 years, it's not just defensively to me. It's offensively. Mm-hmm. Now, yeah, we can go look at the second half against Bama when they started going up tempo and hit those explosive plays. But you look, offensively, they're still on the struggle bus a little bit. Like this, it didn't just, hey, this front 7 doesn't have Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis. This Georgia team's a little bit different all around. They're still very talented. They're a top 5 personnel team in the country. But, Cone, if you're Florida and you're Billy Napier, and you're basically still, he's just blowing in the wind. It could go either way. Why would I not run DJ Lagway as much as humanly possible to try and create that advantage from that quarterback position, which is different than what Texas had in Quinn Ewers, right? Which is one of the reasons I think Sark went to Arch, was to try and get a more mobile guy in there that can take advantage of it. If you're Billy Napier, or you're calling the plays in this game, Are you running Lagway a lot?
I'm throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this game. It's special teams included. I'm mixing a lot of stuff up. I'm going after punts. I'm going after some field goal attempts. I'm so glad you brought up the point about Georgia's offense because I agree the offensive fall off has been more concerning to me than the defensive fall off, especially with the turnovers that we just mentioned. And this stretch right here for Florida is the one we've been talking about since the schedule came out. It was the last 5 games. It's Georgia, Texas on the road, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. Now, Florida State, okay, take that one off this year. But still, it's that stretch. Now, keep in mind, Florida's won 3 of their last 4 games. Their only losses on the road at Tennessee by 6 points. And this is a team that a win like this saves your coach's job. You beat Georgia.
No, he's safe. He wins this way.
If Billy Baker wins this game, he's safe.
So your back's against the wall, fighting for your coach's job. The only problem is Georgia is also, hey, any loss keeps us out of the conference championship.
Yeah, and like, can Florida play clean? That's the question. Can they play clean? And I'm not just talking about from the physical penalties, the holdings, which happen, the face masks, which happen, the hand fighting that gets called pass interference, that happens. It's the procedural stuff. And you brought up special teams. Not having 2 guys with the same jersey number out there when it's 4th and 4. Right. Not putting yourself in bad field position situations because of stupid stuff that happened after the play. Starting in 1st and 15. Or getting into 2nd and 4 and then getting a false start penalty, right? Even though the stadium split 50-50. Now you're in 2nd and 9. Not saying you have to play perfect. But from a turnover and penalty standpoint, and I know it's obvious, if Florida can play clean, I think they can stay in this game. I actually like them to cover if they can play clean. And why are they winning and playing better? Because they are playing cleaner. But when you have a young quarterback, you don't really know what you're going to get. It's going to be fascinating. We want to know, what do you think the Florida-Georgia score is going to be? But, David, let's move on to the second preview.
Oh, one more point I was going to make that I forgot about Georgia's offense. I almost don't count the second half of the Alabama game that you brought up because you were playing such a different mode, right? Going for every 4th down because you were down so big, having to go for 2-point conversions. That's just such a different style of offense. We've seen the past couple of weeks, there have been struggles. But any defensive performance like they dialed up against Texas is going to keep you in any football game.
Without a doubt. They play like that, it's going to be damn hard.
Yeah, the front 7 won you.
Can you get up like that for the rest of your games, though? And Kirby Smart's been really good about that. All right, let's go to one in the Big Ten. We highlighted this in the offseason, this Michigan game hosting Oregon. Not quite as much luster here with Michigan being 5-3, but there's still a lot to fight for. Michigan, the largest home underdogs they've been, I think, since 1986.
Did Tuttle? Did something happen with Tuttle?
Jack Tuttle, I was just going to say, quarterback Jack Tuttle has retired from football after his 5th concussion.
Oh, okay.
So, and obviously he had a bunch of injuries when he was at Indiana, and he's an older guy, so I wish him the best. He seems like a great guy. I got to meet him when I was in
and he got his shot.
He got his shot, and he's done with football. He's going to move on. I hope he does great things in life. So that leaves Davis Warren or Alex Orji from Michigan. You're 5-3. You're hosting an Oregon team that is just absolutely cruising right now. You do get them in the big house, and this line is minus 14.5 right now, but it opened at about 16.
Well, and I've gone back and forth. When I was driving up to the studio, I was thinking about this game from both perspectives. First off, I hate that this game, it's a big game, make no mistake. Every game Michigan plays in is a big game. And I know you're coming off an undefeated year, won the national championship, all that. I just wish there was more to this game, right? Because I've been looking forward to this one since the offseason. But when I look at it from Sherrone Moore's standpoint, I think you got to play both quarterbacks in this game, situationally, but you got to play Davis Warren probably most of it. Because as good as your defense has been, this Oregon offense is going to find ways to score points. I think Michigan may have their best defensive effort of the year, and that includes tackling in space, because we've talked about all the time on this show how Will Stein and Oregon do a great job of supplementing the run game with that short pass game, that quick pass game, which if you want to load the box, they'll spit it out. Even if you don't load the box, they're going to make you tackle in space. But I feel like Michigan could play great on defense for 80% of this game. But Oregon's going to find a way, right, to push the ball down the field. Dylan Gabriel's starting to use his legs a little bit more. So if you're Michigan, I don't think, because Oregon, they haven't been as elite as what I thought they were going to be in the front 7 defensively and against the run. But they're starting to figure it out a little bit, and they've got good enough personnel to fight with you up front when you look at Michigan's offensive line. So I don't think you can just bash the wall in with Orji the whole game. You got to have Davis Warren out there to give you somewhat of a throwing element, because you may stop Oregon a decent amount, but eventually they're going to find you because they are very talented on offense, and they're starting to gain even more confidence on this offense. They've got everything. They've got the offensive line. They've got a mobile quarterback that can really spin it in Dylan Gabriel. They've got the James kid at running back. They've got multiple guys that can run it. They've got slot guys. They've got Evan Stewart who can play the Z, can play the X, all that stuff on the outside. And they've got one of the best tight ends that nobody talks about in the country. So if you're Michigan, I feel like you got to play both of them, but you're probably going to have to lean on Davis Warren to be. He's going to have to throw you to a win eventually, because if Oregon hits the 20-point mark, which I think they will, it's going to be tough just to line up and run Q power and power read and beat them for the whole game.
I mean, with the way Oregon's been playing, especially the performance against Illinois, which I know was at home, Blaine, are you surprised to see the line not be higher?
Yeah, I really am. I mean, if there's ever a time to catch Oregon, now's not the time. If you're Michigan, especially with Tuttle going out.
What's it at? What's the line at?
14.5.
16.5. What'd you say it started at?
It started at this says 15.5. I think I saw it 16 other places. Right now it's minus 14.5 Oregon.
God, who'd have thought that would have been the case?
45.5 over under.
And it's just, this isn't a great matchup for Michigan. I mean, right now you're looking at the Oregon team. Dylan Gabriel is just checking all the boxes. He's doing everything well. They're running the ball well. They have 3 receivers that can go get it with a tight end, and their defense is figuring out in the front 7. While it feels like Michigan's defense is getting worse and their offense isn't improving. So I like Oregon to cover in this game. I just don't know. It's to the point now where Michigan, you might as well put Warren and Alex Wardgy out there, run the 2 quarterback systems, throw swing passes and double passes, reverse double passes, then I don't know after that.
It's funny you say that, because I did think that Kirk Campbell with the play calling last week was starting to get more creative and seeing what he had to work with. Not necessarily with trick plays, but end around bluff was a big one that was working. That kind of stuff. Well, you need to throw everything you can at this game. I'll tell you how Oregon's really going to hurt Michigan. They're going to go up tempo. They're going to go up tempo early, and they're going to go up tempo often. I don't know if Will Johnson's going to play. If he does play, I don't know how effective he's going to be. Obviously, Michigan needs him. He's a game changer, especially with these wide receivers you're going to be facing. But pace. Oregon needs to run at pace as much as possible, because one, those now screens and those quick screens, that's going to keep that front 7 from being able to tee off on you, and you're going to get these wide receivers out on space against linebackers, which is what really hurts Michigan. But more importantly, you're going to get those first-string guys tired, and that's what Texas did to Michigan.
And again, if the problem for Michigan, and it continues to be this, is what happens when you get down?
Yeah.
What happens if Oregon comes out and you look up? And I mean, we saw LSU go up 17-7 on A&M. We saw Kentucky go up 10-0 on Auburn. We see this all the time. What happens if Oregon comes out and you're down 10? Now you got to change the way you operate. You really have to dribble with your left. So the first quarter is always important. It's not the most important quarter, but I think the early start in this game is going to dictate a lot about Michigan's ability to just hang in there. But when you look, David, at this matchup, because we do have some samples to look at. Michigan has, hosted USC, right? Mm-hmm. Michigan has hosted Texas. Dan Lanning put this Oregon team together and built this team like this to be able to translate into the Big Ten Conference if they go there, to be able to translate against SEC teams. And it's the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. So if things are even close to even on the line of scrimmage between Michigan and Oregon, that is a tough ask for Michigan to be able to hang in there.
Yeah, and that's obviously everything that I just said about Oregon going up tempo. The only way to offset is to have success on the ground game. I'm talking about 11, 12, 13 play drives. Exactly. Keep the ball for 42 minutes like Vanderbilt did against Alabama.
That's probably your path. That's probably your path.
If you'd have caught Oregon earlier in the year, it probably would have worked out.
Maybe.
Now, y'all need to catch Oregon when Boise State did. Like now it's like...
Well, you say that, but Michigan had their own problems.
Well, that's true, though. But do you look at that and say, man, Mullings, maybe he can get loose against these guys?
Maybe. I mean, he's a hard runner, man. He is,
and it is at home.
And he started a game at linebacker before. How crazy is that? A guy who started at linebacker is now your bellwether back.
Yeah, he really does. He's kind of built like that a little bit, too. But it's going to be a hell of a matchup. We'll see how it goes down. But let me tell you about something else and how it goes down. All right, if you want everyday earbuds that are made to make your everyday just a little bit easier, all right, if you want earbuds that you put in your ears and you can run and they don't fall out, right, or you got active noise cancellation, which makes long flights easier. I mean, I use them when I go out and run every time. Well, Raycon, all right, this is the place to get you. Don't go to any of the other places that overprice their earbuds. Because the fact is, even things that are supposed to just work seamlessly often don't. And we know how frustrating that is when it comes to stuff you use every day. So don't let your earbuds be a letdown. You need to check out Raycon. I'm telling you, they got a quick charge function. 10 minutes of charging yields 90 minutes of battery. That's a pretty good turnover rate when I've seen it. Believe me, we talk about turnover rate a lot. Like I said, they got active noise cancellation, weatherproof, and they're sweat resistant. All right, so stop the fuss. Go to buyraycon.com/booster today to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's right. You'll get up to 50% off everything that Raycon has on their website when you go to BUYRAYCON.com/booster. Guys, Christmas is coming up. There's some birthdays that are coming up, including mine. All right, that's on a Saturday this year. It's the Golden Saturday, as I call it. But if you want to get a great gift that keeps on giving, go to buyraycon.com/booster and check it out. Fantastic product. But Huddle Up's a fantastic product too, David.
Yeah.
And we do it every week. And what a segue, because it's about Texas A&M before we bring old Billy Liucci up in this.
The Liucci.
Let's play it. Everybody huddle up. Let's figure it out.
All right, huddle up, Texas A&M fans. Let's get in 12 personnel and run trips right nub, Arizona Bluff. This was a key touchdown by Marcel Reed to lead Texas A&M past LSU. Let's break it down. At this point in the game, LSU is up 10, and Garrett Nussmeier has just thrown a crucial interception. So this is the first play following that turnover. Aggies already in the red zone, and they make a change at quarterback. They decide to go with Marcel Reed rather than Connor Wegman, and this is really when everything turned in the game. Aggies come out in 12 personnel. So one running back and two tight ends, and they line up in trips right nub. Now, our nub tight end is the one that's attached to the field, and we have trips right into the boundary. We're going to go ahead and motion that second tight end. He looks like a wide receiver, but that's our other tight end. We're going to motion him across the formation and run inside zone to the right, which I'm going to call Arizona. Arizona has an R, an I, and a Z, right inside zone. But here's what's so great about this design right here. If that motion tight end kicks out that end man on the line of scrimmage, if he blocks that defensive end, then this would be split zone. All right, we'd hand the football off and hope for a one-on-one with our back and say the free safety. But he doesn't block split zone. He bluffs that and moves up to the second level, and our nub tight end arch blocks to the corner, which means Marcel Reed is reading this defensive end. If he comes up the field, we're going to hand the football off and run inside zone. If he crashes to the running back, we're going to pull that, and that's exactly what we get here. Pull the football, and now you have both tight ends blocking for you out in space. This is such a creative way for Colin Klein to call zone read in the red zone for a dual threat quarterback. And if Marcel Reed is the guy moving forward for Texas A&M, expect a lot more plays like this. This is 12 personnel, trips right nub, Arizona Bluff.
Man, I tell you what, that's the most Kansas. Colin Klein, if you remember, played quarterback in Kansas State. That's the most Kansas State thing. Get in heavy personnel, run the zone read off the, with the bluff off the split zone action, which everybody in the world runs split zone. But at that point, I mean, the safety just got to make the play. I was talking to you earlier when we were looking at it. If you're the end, yeah, your job is on that play to take the back, right? Now, we used to make a scope call where you take the quarterback, but I mean, you're cooked. You're cooked.
You can't do it.
You're cooked.
You're wrong.
You know what gets built off that, right?
Here's
split
the
zone,
pass,
bluff,
red zone.
arrow.
You'll
tight
see
end
it
in the flat.
You can build an option into that.
And then you don't have to
The big thing
even
about
be a
that
great
was
thrower.
like the motion guy, whoever number one, I believe it was 84, murdered that guy. That's what gets me excited.
Well, the difference is you can't run that with Connor Wegman. You can't run that with him.
It has to be split zone.
It has to be split zone or the bluff and you throw it. But that end isn't in conflict there. Or he doesn't. It's like when Auburn used to run zone read with Jared Stidham. Nobody believed the quarterback was going to keep it. It was really inside zone, right? He would just look at the defensive end. But speaking about in the zone, this guy, I call him the supreme leader of Texags. That's what I like to call him. I know there's you call it whatever, founder, whatever. I like to call him the supreme leader. Our guy, Billy Liucci. Luch, what is up, dog?
What's up,
Billy?
What's up, guys? Been too long.
I know.
What, summer?
Yeah, I remember, I saw you at SEC Media Days in Dallas, and that was the last time. And heck, y'all started doing so well, I was afraid to hit you up. Didn't want to jinx it or anything, even though I did pick you guys to beat LSU. Billy, I know that and a lot of A&M fans that we talk to, they're like, the job's not done. I know that. I understand the job's not done. But is this right now in this moment, and I know Johnny Manziel and them had some great moments, is this the best time that there's been in a long time to be a Texas A&M fan? Just the feeling right now?
I think it's very comparable to that 2012 time period because both the first year under a new head coach and so much hope and optimism, but having been through Coach Sumlin and Jimbo, and both those guys got it close, but couldn't get it over the hump, but to kind of understand why they were unable to do it in hindsight, and it is hindsight because we were all high on Kevin Sumlin after the first 2 years, especially year one, and same thing with Jimbo. Year three had him in the top 5 there, but in hindsight and knowing what it was that didn't happen, if you followed this program at all since Mike Elko's gotten here, you felt so good about every button he pushed, every decision he made, every change he made, the guys he brought in, the guys he didn't keep, the hires, all of it. You felt so great about it, the culture. And then you said, okay, if he keeps doing this, he's doing all the right things where the wins will come. I don't think anyone, myself included, thought the wins would come this quickly. You could have convinced. I would have thought maybe they'd be a 2-loss team at this point.
I had 10-2. I had 10-2
for the year. See, I had 9-3.
Yeah.
But it's just the way they're doing it that's so much more exciting and encouraging, right? Just LSU was a lot better team coming in here than I thought they would be prior to the season. Arkansas was better than I thought they would be. Florida seems to have gotten maybe some things figured out, and that was even before Mertz got hurt. Notre Dame was better than I thought they'd be, and they've rebounded since that loss. So when I look at what they've accomplished on this schedule, Missouri was worse, by the way. I left that one out. When I looked at what I thought they'd accomplish on this schedule, it's not that they're that far off in terms of the games, but it's just the kind of football they're playing now at this point in the season. And it's what the rest of the league looks like, which is as wide open as it's been since A&M joined the league in 2012, because there's no Nick Saban, Alabama, and Georgia, while still great, I think offensively they still lack enough to where on the wrong day somebody can get them.
Yeah.
And there's about 5 teams in the conference I feel like on the wrong day could get them, even though they are still the best team in the league.
And we want to ask you about South Carolina here in a little bit, because I think that game is very, very scary, because South Carolina is bipolar. Like, you could get anything out of the bag with that group. And I want to get to that, but I've talked about this since Elko got the job. I noticed this at Duke. I've got buddies in coaching circles that have a ton of respect for him and the way he operates. And I've used terms like, and I hate using this because I use it in politics, but it feels like adults are in the room. Like, yes, someone got off to a good start. Him and Jimbo, and the drama that came along with Jimbo surprised me, to be honest with you, at Texas A&M. But it just feels like this is more sustainable. It feels like the difference between growing your own food and then going out and having to get your food from somebody else. And when you add the monster that is behind Texas A&M from the money standpoint and all that, you didn't hear anything this offseason about drama. And I talked this when I was on with Nuno, right, during SEC Media Days. All you heard from A&M, from Mike Elko, was we are blocking and tackling. So if I'm an A&M fan, I honestly, Billy, don't think this team's elite. I don't think they're an elite team. I think Mike Elko is an elite coach that gets every ounce out of the players that he has, and he did it at Duke, and he's doing it now. Is that sustainability argument? Is that kind of what A&M fans are feeling right now?
Yeah, and I think that's you hit it exactly on the head. They're watching this, and they're enjoying this moment and this run. But what makes you feel that much better about it is what he's done in every phase of his program to this point, what he's done with the culture, making decisions like he made on Saturday night. The excitement level at Kyle Field is at an all-time high. Even the little things, guys, like you guys know this, and it's like fan engagement, what they've done on social media, what they did with bringing power back into the team intro at Kyle Field, what they did this week with the uniforms and a blackout. Like, these are things that sometimes other people are unwilling to do, but people here have entrusted that, hey, this guy knows what's best for the program. He knows what's best for recruiting. I mean, guys, if we had time to just sit here and break down what he added in the portal, it's pretty remarkable. It makes you feel so good about their understanding of a roster that wasn't even theirs
Yeah.
So imagine when he gets his roster, his understanding of what they need, where they're weak, where they're strong. You've got guys like Nick Scorton from Purdue that led the Big Ten in sacks, but oh, by the way, a guy that made a pressure on one of those interceptions happened to lead the MAC in sacks last year in Cassius Howell. And you've got Des Ricks, a 5-star from Alabama, starting in your secondary. But then it's the guy from Alabama, Birmingham, B.J. Mays, that had 2 picks in your biggest win of the year to date. So they kind of went all over the country, big and small, to fill out this portal roster. And you see how those guys are contributing. And I don't think they're elite. I'm with you. But I don't think there's really any elite teams in the SEC outside of probably the one in Athens. And they're not as elite as they've been. But so this is the year to, okay, well, we're not elite. Well, guess what that does? That puts games like South Carolina and Auburn in jeopardy, but it also means you're more than equipped enough to go win those games. Nothing's guaranteed. But by the way, you're also equipped enough to beat a Texas team that a couple weeks ago was ranked number 1. They're elite at stopping the run. The statistics might not tell you that because they gave up a lot in the first couple games. But go look at their last 6 games at stopping the run. Go look at Elko and his defense in terms of halftime adjustment in the last 4 or 5 games. Look at how they're running the football. So in those areas, and then I also think they're elite in terms of just believing in what the coaching staff is asking them to do and believing in the schemes and believing in each other. In those areas, they're kind of elite. That's why I thought there was too much being put on LSU heading into this one and what they had going than there was A&M. And Jake, you picked the Aggies. A lot of people weren't. A lot of people were jumping on LSU because of this perceived upward trajectory, which I saw as well, but I felt like people were ignoring the fact that A&M was on a very similar trajectory there. And I thought that LSU team had some holes A&M could exploit. And to be honest, I was kind of surprised they weren't able to through the first half. But once they got it going, and it was most of that had to do with Marcel Reed coming in, but that defense choked the life out of LSU as well. They started whipping that vaunted O-line, and they got after Nussmeier.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Billy, Texas A&M going to go on the road to play South Carolina this weekend. I mean, the Gamecocks can be anyone in the conference. They could lose to anyone by 30 points, right? Like, that's sort of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Right now, the line, -2.5, Texas A&M. What's the Aggies' game plan going to be? Are you guys going to start the young Marcel Reed at quarterback, or are we going to get a surprise and Coach Elko goes back to Connor Wegman? I mean, to your point, I don't think you guys beat LSU unless Marcel Reed comes in.
No, I don't either. And I think the LSU fans that are listening some of them probably need a little reminder that when you give up like 23 yards rushing and you run for 240, the Aggies tailbacks had 100 yards rushing or so at halftime. It wasn't like all they did. They physically took over that football game. And if had they gotten 3 turnovers, maybe Connor Wigman does help them win that game 24-23. I mean, a lot of those drives were short, but there's no doubt that Marcel Reed led to that explosion, which was 4 touchdowns, 4 possessions. He was incredible. Just to play the way he did in those 3 games, come off the bench, play the way he did in that atmosphere from behind Saturday night, it was an all-time performance by a young quarterback and a rapidly improving young quarterback. I think you have a hard time not going with him in this one, but they've also been real, I think, attentive to what the matchup is versus run, cut it loose down the field. And I think that's why they started Connor against Missouri, and that one paid off. We'll see. We'll see how it goes this week. I think you'll probably see them split reps. I mean, if you're just asking me what I expect, I just think the way the team responded to that, the energy level, all of those things, that would be hard for me to just kind of give back with such a big game because, like you said, yeah, South Carolina seems a little schizo, but if you really think about it, like what they beat LSU if Lenore Sellers doesn't get hurt, in my opinion. Not to mention the pick six run back that could have iced the game, and it was the block behind the play, which was the right call. But it, as you guys know, that's not the football we grew up with. But we used to love those blocks back in the day if you could get them, especially on the quarterback. But if Sellers doesn't get hurt, I think South Carolina wins that game. We saw how close they were to winning in Bryant-Denny. The only game where they really came out and got beat up was against Ole Miss. So, I mean, I think this is a really good team. They're coming off a bye. It's at night. It's homecoming. I think this is the best defensive line A&M's faced all year. It's going to be a really tough one for the Aggies. But look, what are we talking about? Are we talking about them trying to meet Billy Liucci's prediction at 9-3 and exceed other people that thought they were going to go 7-5 or 8-4? Or are we talking about A&M seeing an opportunity now that they've created for themselves with this win last week and that win over Missouri? I think they're 2-0 against top 10 teams in the last 3 weeks, like roughly 80-33 score. They've won 4 or 5 SEC games by double digits. You're playing for something bigger. Forget that it's year one. Forget that, this is not an elite team when you sit there and watch them. They're playing for something unexpected, something bigger, and the opportunity for them is right now. So, hey, guess what? It's going to be hard, and I'm here to tell you, and you guys know this, going to Auburn in a couple weeks is going to be hard too.
Oh, yeah.
And Texas is going to come in here, and that's going to be 60-minute war. But we're talking about, are you good enough to represent Texas A&M in Atlanta against Georgia or Texas or Tennessee or whoever? Are you good enough to win the first SEC title in school history? Are you good enough to get in the playoff and win games? That's what we're talking about now. So they've got to be put to the test, and they're going to be put to the test this weekend. And if they're good enough to do all of those things, then they're good enough to go win in South Carolina, which is going to be a fist fight.
Oh, I can't wait. A couple of things here, Billy. First of all, I've said this about Mike Elko. It's what Niels Bohr said in the Oppenheimer. It's not about if you can read the music, but can you hear it? And it seems like Mike
he can hear the music.
Can hear the music. We'll get your honest opinion here, Billy. Well, who was Mike talking about in the post-game press conference, and why was it Brian Kelly?
You know, no one thinks it was Brian Kelly. Everyone thinks it's Jimbo because he said fast talking. And then someone pointed out that at one point, was Brian Kelly like...
He's like in politics, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Pretty sure, right?
So it was like, it threw people off. Look, I'll say this, just what I know, what I really know. I do know that Mike Elko immediately saw the reaction to that and was caught off guard, which makes me fully believe that he didn't mean it in that way. But I've known the guy, I've known him forever, for 7 years. But just since he's been here, you guys know how it is. There's plenty of private conversations that are not on this set, that are not on mic, and that are, friend to friend, colleague to colleague. And
for sure.
He's never said anything bad about Jimbo Fisher. But he could have easily. He's leading up to this game, I've never heard him say anything negative about Brian Kelly. In fact, I've talked to him in the past about his time and kind of leaving Notre Dame after 1 year. I think that was a tough decision for him because I think he really did respect Brian Kelly and was gracious for him getting that job. So just from those conversations, I know Mike Elko, and I know he's not the kind of guy to go up there and say, yeah, look at me, and I'm not like them. I really think if you really go back and listen to that after hearing what I just said and re-listen, I think the fast talking through people one way and politician through people another way.
Yeah.
But I just think he means this, for lack of a better word, like this is a no BS program. There are a lot of BS programs around there that we're recruiting against. And if you hear that whole thing, it's a message to recruits. And it's a message about this is what our program's about. It's about hard work, blue collar. We're not going to BS you or your families. We're not going to tell lies when it comes to NIL and these type things. I felt like that. He felt like he had that platform. And that was the opportunity to send that message to everyone. And I also understand why people heard that and misinterpreted it just because of those two
coincidences.
I get it, but just knowing the man, that ain't him. It's just not.
Well, Billy, how do we know he wasn't just telling people that Texas A&M isn't what they've been in the past? We're not this flash and sizzle, and we're not going to have a disco ball in the office. I just want to let everybody know that we are here to make you better at football, and if you're down with that, we don't want the distractions. We just want you to make tackles in open space and score touchdowns. So he may have just been talking in general.
I think there definitely could have been something to that, too, especially from a guy that's been here and probably sat there and went, man, I would do this different. I would do that different. And that's, as you know, that's not a shot at it's just more like, I know what our reputation has been. I know where we've fallen short. And Jake, you and I talk about this all the time. A&M football is at its best. And I think all A&M athletics, there's something about, and you guys know other places like this, there's something about the culture that the teams here that have success, they play defense, they roll up their sleeves, they get physical, they don't quit, they fight. Look at the A&M baseball team this past year. Those are the teams in Texas A&M that have had the most success since I've been covering this football team. It just is what it is. It's always been that way. And I think that's why Mike Elko, regardless of whether he beat or lost to LSU Saturday night, that's why he's the right guy for this team right now. We've tried all the other stuff. They landed on the right coach, thank goodness, because we all know how that search process went. And I think it's the perfect fit for what this place is trying to do right now.
Yeah, y'all don't need to be the Cheesecake Factory. You just need to be a meat and three and be good at it. Let's go one from the chat, and then we'll get Billy on out of here.
All right, let's go to the Grieving Hawk. He says, Billy wants to know, how many SEC teams do you see making it to the playoff right now? Is the conference just going to cannibalize itself?
Yeah, I do think there's going to be a lot of cannibalization. And I'm sitting here, I see Aggies talking about it. I see Texas fans. I see, whether it's Ole Miss, LSU, thinking, well, what if we win it? Somebody's going, here's my prediction is there's going to be somebody and maybe even two teams that finish 10-2. I've always heard there's no way a 10-2 SEC team will be left out of this thing. I believe there will, and I believe it'll happen this year. So there will be some cannibalization. There's just, I think if you look at the way these schedules play out, there's a real chance there's just not enough spots. So out of 12, is it 4? I mean, it'd have to be, because Georgia, Tennessee, A&M, Texas, and then you go to, if teams keep winning like LSU or Alabama, Ole Miss, you're up to 7 possibles. And we know they all won't get there, but the fact that everybody's got about 4 games left and we're up to 7 possibles. And for most of those teams, it's 3 meaningful games. And we're at 7 possibles. I mean, I think a max of 4, and somebody's getting left out, in my opinion, at 10-2 or better.
Man, that's why that Notre Dame team, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if they eat up a spot. But Billy, we always love when you come hang out at this spot, my friend. Y'all are killing it over at TexAgs. We know how busy you are and how much of a fun time it is right now. And good luck this Saturday at South Carolina. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, guys. Love it always. Appreciate y'all.
Hey, Billy Liucci, one of the best in the business, supreme leader of TexAgs, joining us today. And speaking about supreme, David, you want to be the most supreme version of yourself. And we're about to get to phone calls. All right, 1-855
Burrito Supreme.
Then we'll get to donations. But if you want to be the most supreme version of yourself and a leader, you need to be responsible. You need to be healthy. All right? You need to make sure that you keep your brain sharp, that you support your immune system, and you keep your heart and muscle strong. David, how can they do that? By taking what?
By taking Responsible Man Daily.
Daily. It's a multivitamin that is jam-packed, loaded, some would say even frothed, with 33 key ingredients that support your health. Ladies, listen, you want your man to be healthy? All right, the diets we eat nowadays, a lot of them aren't. And if they are, you still need to be healthier. So listen up, all right? Stop looking away. You're not perfect, at least not yet. But if you take Responsible Man, all right? And again, they just took them right here on set. Look, we practice what we preach. All right, we swallow the pills we preach. All right, and right now you can take advantage of Responsible Man's fall sale and get 50% off your order or just $19.99 for your first order. When you head over to responsibleman.com and use code BOOSTER, shocker, that's the promo code, at checkout. But hurry, this deal's not going to last long. And remember, gentlemen, strong America needs strong men, and strong men start with Responsible Man. That's responsibleman.com with code BOOSTER for 50% off. Somebody be responsible and also a man. Let's get to the phone lines.
All right, let's go to Mike in Alberta. We're international, boys. Mike, what's going on?
All right, Mike.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you?
What's up, man?
I've got just cleaning out my wallet, and I've got an old receipt in here. I've been saving it for just this time. Let me look at it and make sure I quote it right. You need to check your expectations. You'll be lucky to make a bowl game. You need to look in a mirror and determine who you can take home. And it looks like at 6 wins, they're probably going to a bowl game. So,
oh, they are.
I want to know, are you going to start showing some respect to Prime now, or?
Well, I mean, I just led. We just led the show off with him, giving him his kudos and his flowers.
I've been saving this one for a long time.
Oh yeah. And look,
come back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I think we got to be realistic about how this happened, and I'm 100%. The result is a result. They're 6-2. I think a lot of the stars aligned, but yeah, they deserve credit. I mean, I'll be the first to come up here and tell you when I'm right, be the first to tell you when I'm wrong, and. You know, when you look at Colorado, we're not in the majority on predictions on all things, but I think it was pretty much consensus that until this line of scrimmage, the offensive line and the defensive line proved that they could take that next step or at least stalemate, it was going to be tough for Colorado. But they've done it, and that's why you got to give them credit.
Appreciate it, buddy. Have a good one.
All right, man. Stay warm up there.
See you, Mike. All right, let's go to Tyler. Let's go to Tyler in Florida. Tyler, what's going on?
Fellas, state champs. Miami beats FSU.
Yeah, that was like stealing, wasn't it?
Oh, dude, it was pitiful. But you know what? I'll take it. We're state champs. But I wanted to talk about on that game. Everybody, I keep hearing Miami fans whine and complain because we didn't, score 50 points and blah blah blah. But to me, that game is what the future holds when Cam Ward goes. That's what Mario wants to do.
Yeah.
Mario wants to run the ball for 230, 240, 250 yards, throw it here and there, and just wear you out. Because I know the score, we won by 22 points, but that was – you could look by the end of the game and look that FSU was just beat to hell basically because of – our run game, and that's what Mario wants to do. So
agreed.
That's going to be, to me, in my opinion, that's what we're going to look like next year, unless we somehow get another, dynamic with quarterback, which I don't think is going to happen. But that's what we're going to be, and it's good. I'm glad that we're seeing the running game because guess what that does? Keeps our defense off the field, which I am all for at this point.
Well, if you're a Miami fan at this point, it's just about winning. Like the style points don't even matter anymore. And again, you haven't accomplished, what you've want to accomplish yet with Mario Cristobal there. So, if you're to the point now, if that program's to the point now where you're disappointed with a 22-point ass beating over arch rival Florida State,
ridiculous,
then that's a lot of ivory tower movement for me. I know you aren't, but y'all dominated. That game was never in doubt. As a head coach for Mario Cristobal, that game was never in doubt.
Well, and I'm being on the defensive mindset that in a game like that, that's when you're walking off the field going, good God, we got beat. Beat. We couldn't, when they run the ball down your throat like that, that's a different kind of beat down. Real quick, also before I get off, y'all were talking about the Elko in press conference. Did y'all see Mario's press conference after the game when he basically called out the entire state?
Yeah, when he said, look at the trajectory of our program compared to everybody else's. Listen, when you're hot, you're hot. I don't blame them. You got to take advantage of the moment. Just like they say in politics, you can't let a crisis go to waste. Look, you can't let the gassing up go to waste either.
You got to talk when you're up.
Yeah, I don't blame him at all, Tyler.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys. Great show. Love y'all.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Let's go to Rodrigo in Dallas. Rodrigo, what's up?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Rodrigo, what's up, man?
Good. have a question for y'all. If Texas loses to A&M on that final week, are they a lock for the playoffs? Because their best win will be Vanderbilt, and you have in the ACC, you have Clemson, probably SMU, and Miami with great records in the Big Ten as well. I feel like nobody talks about that with Texas because they were ranked so high in the preseason.
Cone, my thought is there's no way in hell they keep a 10-2 Texas out.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, especially with Quinn Ewers. And I know the Heisman hype has kind of come down. I don't see a world. And I know, again, the wins wouldn't be the prettiest. But if they lose at A&M and they go 10-2, I mean, think about it. You'd be 10-1 going into the last week of the season, be a top 10 ranked team. If A&M wins, a lot of that has to do, I think, with, I think Texas gets in regardless, but how A&M does up to that point too. Because if Texas and Texas A&M are both in the top 10 in that last week and A&M beats Texas, I mean, that's Texas's 2 losses would be to 2 top 10 teams, possibly 2 top 5 teams.
Yeah, but Rodrigo makes a good point on the wins. You wouldn't have a great win, and this is where Michigan not being great this year really hurts you. But it's still a good brand win, right? You went on the road and beat Michigan. 10-2 Texas is just not going to get left out, and there'd be no chance at that point of picking up your 3rd loss in the conference championship. And even if we saw a scenario where Quinn Ewers gets hurt, you're not going to be Florida State.
You may have a better chance to go in with Archie Manning.
Yeah, Archie Manning's grandson would step in, and that would count for something.
What percentage would you put on it? Let's just give Rodrigo a percentage. If Texas finishes 10-2, they lose to A&M, what percentage would you put on Texas making the playoff? I'd say 80%.
Yeah, 78, 79%.
Yeah, I'd say 80%.
But what if you also have a 10-2 Tennessee or a 10-2 LSU or Alabama? That
well, you
can't
have that for LSU and Alabama.
Somebody's going to get pissed.
Well, for LSU and Alabama, one of them is going to be picking up their 3rd loss, right? When they
and Georgia has to play Tennessee.
Well, I guess if LSU beats Alabama at home,
then Alabama has 3 and they're out of it. A lot of this is, Rodrigo, we can get into the Always Sunny in Philadelphia and start putting yarn strings to pictures and maps and stuff like that. But a lot of stuff is going to happen in the next couple weeks that should take a little bit of a divot out of some of these teams that are at the top. But to me, if I was a Texas fan, I wouldn't be as worried as much about what's going on in my conference. I would be worried about what happens if BYU and Iowa State are both undefeated and go to the conference championship there. What happens if Miami and Clemson and SMU don't lose an ACC game, but only 2 of them can play in the championship? What happens if Notre Dame is in a position where you're having to compare to them and they beat Texas A&M and you lost to them? What happens if Indiana goes 11-1 and doesn't play in the Big Ten championship? I'd be more worried about the outside of the conference, but I still know that brand is Texas, and I know they want that Texas brand in there as much as humanly possible. I would feel pretty good about it. You just got to handle business up until that point and then see if you can't roll your helmet out there and beat A&M.
Yeah, for Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss, already with 2 losses, you can't lose again.
Georgia's got to play Ole Miss, too.
Yeah, Georgia has to play Ole Miss and Tennessee, and Alabama and LSU are playing each other in Baton Rouge. So we got a lot of football.
Somebody's going to get left out, like always. There's going to be muddy water at the end of the year, but trust me, this playoff structure is just a tryout for a bigger one that's coming pretty soon.
Well, and 2, I would take Texas's finishing schedule over a lot of teams in the SEC's finishing schedule when you really look at it. No disrespect to A&M, that game is going to be hard as hell. It's going to be crazy at Kyle Field the last week of the season. But when you look at some of the paths these other teams have to go through, like you look at Tennessee's, or you look at Georgia's, right? Or you look at Bama's, I think Texas is sitting in a pretty decent spot going through this home stretch.
That's a pretty good point, guys. Thank you so much for the call.
Appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
Great
Rodrigo.
call.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Appreciate it, man. Let's go to Bennett. We're going to stay in Dallas and go to Bennett. Talk to us, man.
What's going on, fellas?
Bennett, what's up?
A big fan of the show. I'm a student at A&M right now. I'm in my junior year, and I just wanted to clear one thing up. So obviously, last few years, COVID year was standing. We've kind of been the laughing stock in college football, but I just wanted to point out how that environment was on Saturday. I can't remember in my memory a momentum shift like that, just a game flipping on its head. There was a lot of talk going on last few years, people trying to say maybe the 12th man's overrated, doesn't really impact games. Home field advantage isn't a real thing at Kyle. When you give this fan base something to play for, like they did on Saturday, I mean, that place just swallows opponents. So that's the biggest reason I feel like
people should be really circling that game at the end of the year more than they are right now because, I mean, that environment was like nothing I've ever experienced. And I've been going there since I was 7 years old.
Well, I think to me, Bennett, and I wasn't there, and it's funny, I've never been there, so this may sound hypocritical. But to me, if there's one thing I'm not worried about ever at Texas A&M, it's that the home fans are going to show up and show out. I say the same thing about Auburn. I think the home field advantage, and I think this is something that's a common misconception among fans, and it's about themselves. Fans can only help you so much. It's about the team that's on the field. Is the team on the field good enough to let that home field advantage really cook? That's what it comes down to. Because a lot of it is in between plays and communication. But once that ball is snapped, it's almost, I mean, I've had some guys that say they can't hear anything. Like once the ball's snapped, when they're running routes or whatever, like they just go almost deaf to any of the music. Now, the ground did shake when we were at Tennessee. So I think that did affect it a little bit. But I think it's a bigger compliment to the A&M fans that regardless of how good the team is, y'all are always loud, y'all are always crazy, and there's always an advantage. It's just, is that advantage enough to win depending on how good the team is? And I think this team is good enough.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just look at, I completely agree with that point. I mean, you look at the teams the past few years. I mean, look at 22, for example. I mean, that was an absolute embarrassment. 5-7 after getting the number one recruiting class of all time by some sites. And end of the year, nothing to play for, already out of bowl eligibility. And LSU, number 5 LSU comes into town, and I think we beat them by the exact same score we did this Saturday. So, I mean, I was taking all the beatings about the team and, you know what I mean, everyone laughing at us because it was deserved. But when I started seeing things about, Kyle Fields overrated, 12th man, not a real impact, that was just, I always thought that was kind of laughable. But it's a great time to be an Aggie right now, I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. David, I want to ask you this while we got Ben on the phone. When you were playing at Michigan, or really just in general, but Michigan's probably the best example, how much, like in preparation and before the game, were you focused on, bro, like as a team or as an individual, we cannot let these fans down. Like we can't, because the thing that got me the most fired up, whether it was playing or coaching, was going into the game. And that's why I loved playing and coaching it at a high level, because you go in these high stress environments and so many people, like their happiness for a week. And like one of the things that is the best escape from reality to them, or from reality, is what that football team does on Saturday. How much going into the game were you like, man, I tell you what, like it ain't about me. It's about us coming through for these people that are counting on us, like to come through.
Well, so from an individual standpoint, yeah, I would think about that sometimes, and just how fortunate I was to be able to run out there in front of all these fans who get to support us. But from a team activity standpoint, it was almost just always about execution and the plays that we're going to run. And talking about crowd environment, I mean, we would have the golf cart with the speakers blaring loud music so that you couldn't hear, all those standard sorts of things to prepare.
No doubt. Well, Bennett, great call, man. Call back.
Thanks, man. All right, let's go to Josh in Boise. Josh, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up, man?
Hey, so quick question, and I realize you guys may not want to necessarily answer this question.
Blaine did it.
In light of Auburn, in light of Auburn not doing super great over the last few years with kind of the disappointment and the frustration, is it time to look back and ask, maybe we were a little too critical of Brian Harsin when he was there?
No, not in my mind. Not in my mind. You know what, Blaine? I'm gonna let you have this one.
No, you need to answer.
I need to answer. All right.
This will be our first flag on YouTube.
Yeah, we ain't gotten penalized yet on YouTube. We're pretty well coached. It's Billy Napier's calling us asking for some advice. Here's my thing on Brian Harsin. I think when it comes down to the fundamentals, right, of a game, right, and getting a team prepared to play, I think that was Brian Harsin's strength. But what he couldn't do was bring in the type players that, because you can say what you want about scheme, you can say what you want about culture, but if you don't have good enough players, you ain't winning in the long term in this sport at this level in the Southeastern Conference. So if I could put a mixture of Brian Harsin's fundamental coaching ability with Hugh Freeze's ability to bring in great players, then we'd really have something. But I don't think Brian Harsin could recruit a fat kid to a popsicle stand. And that just isn't going to win at Auburn. So I would take rather having the players and figuring it out than never having the players and hoping to God something great happens.
Well, I'll tell you this, and not a lot of people know this. When Harsin left Boise, I'm a massive Boise State fan, knew a lot of players that played under him. When he left, all the players breathed a sigh of relief. The reason why is because every former player that I've talked to, and there's about 10 of them that I know personally that played under him, they said it was just a grind, that literally all they did was lift weights and they didn't have any time to do anything else. There was no creativity, and they felt like they were just by November ready to be done for the season because they were exhausted. He wasn't personable. He wasn't inspiring. And once he left, he did great with us, right? I mean, there were like 2 losses probably per year under him, but all the players were ready for a change. Yeah. So, like, I wasn't surprised to see that Auburn that first year, like 30 guys were like trying to enter the transfer portal after his first year.
Yeah, well, I always said, I mean, the main thing you want to do is lift weights and talk about accountability. But, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, dude, you got to be a mix, man. You got to be a mix. You know, you can't just be one thing. You got to be multiple things. But
stay as far away from Auburn as you can, Brian Harsin.
Yeah, please don't come back. You're good. Get on out.
He lives here. He lives here now, boys. Again, he's in Boise, from what I believe. So, you know.
Oh, good. Well, please don't tell him I said hello.
All the way from Wuhan, China, to go live in Boise.
Yeah. All right.
Appreciate it, Josh.
Thanks,
all right, that's it for call-ins today. Thanks for calling, y'all.
All right, let's get to bets. God, my hip's asleep. All right, we have college football tonight.
Yes.
Texas State, Sam Houston State. Got them both winning. Minus 109, because I believe. Battle for Texas. And then FIU, New Mexico State. In a game that's probably not going to be very aesthetically pleasing. Give me the over.
Love it.
Hashtag find a way at 43. I wish they'd wear those Vice uniforms again. I thought those were pretty dope. That's gone for minus 115. That's what I got tonight. Conathan, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Texas State as well, but I'm going to take the line. That's minus 4.5 right now, minus 108. And then go ahead and give me La Tech plus the points, plus 10.5, minus 125.
All right, I love it, fellas. Bring up my bets today. I'm going New Mexico State plus 7.5, minus 114, and the over 59.5. The La Tech Texas State game at minus 110.
All right, Ace, what do you got? He's going to go Yankee. Why not? Yankees money line survive at minus 135. And then the Stations of New Mexico, plus 8.5 at minus 115. We'll see. Let's get to the...
What'd you guys think about Russell Wilson last night?
Look good. I think Daniel Jones should not be a quarterback in the NFL.
I think his offense... Listen, I don't think Daniel Jones is great. That's obvious. But, God, their offensive line sucks.
Did they run more screens last night against that Steeler defense than you've ever seen in a football game?
They almost had to.
Yeah.
You couldn't do anything straight up.
Well, it's the perfect combination for it. Your offensive line is not great. Steelers' defensive line gets up the field so much, and they play zone coverage behind it. Every play was a screen.
Why aren't we chipping Watt on every play?
What?
Why aren't we chipping Watt?
Oh, why aren't we?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they were.
Let me ask you this, though.
Why? Why not?
Hey, let me ask you this, though. Would you rather have prime TJ Watt or prime JJ Watt?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You think so, dude. Man? It's closer. You're answering way too quick over there.
JJ was just killing.
He was. Look at his brother.
People. I think TJ does more than DJ.
The pass game. I just take JJ.
Just wait. Easily.
Huh? So the guy that does the most stuff well is TJ.
Don't ask me a question and get mad at me for answering.
No, I'm trying to figure. When your answer doesn't make sense to me, that's when I'm going to push you on it. It's not that I asked you a question, you answered it. I just think that answer just doesn't make... So if your answer is who's the most versatile, who's the best against the run and the pass, TJ can drop back at linebacker and play.
Yeah, but I think JJ was better at stopping the run from like a DN position.
Well, yeah, I think he was more of a run stopper than.
Well, he could also rush the pass.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think TJ does so many things, and look at his sack numbers; they're ridiculous.
Well, I think it's a lot. I think TJ also has Highsmith on the other side, which helps out a lot.
Who played opposite of JJ?
I think they had a couple guys come through.
I'm trying to remember who that was back then. I don't know. It's a good question.
So JJ 6'5", 288. Obviously 35 years old. TJ 6'4", 252. He has 103 career sacks. JJ had 114.
God, how quick did they drink all the milk in that house growing up? I bet you they probably had to just get a cow to put in the backyard.
Those fights growing up were not fun.
No, I'm not breaking that up.
All right, if you donate today, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it on this side. Let's go to a $5 donation from Hunter O'Neill. So if Bryson Daly leads the nation in rushing touchdowns, no picks, and is top 5 or 10 in rushing yards and goes undefeated /playoff, Heisman ? Won me $10K this month.
Who?
Yeah, that's the Army quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's a reason I have Cody Worley close to damn near the top of my Broyles award list. I mean, him and Kodal Nicki, there's a couple other guys that I'm looking at right now. Army is, everybody's talking about Navy, and I like Horvath. I think Horvath has done some really good things. This Army team is different, dog. Like, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to tell you right now, Army is going to beat Notre Dame. They're going to beat them. And a lot of people say, no, they're not. Look what Notre Dame did to Navy, and the Northern Illinois game turned Notre Dame into this monster. Okay, that's fine. Wait till these cats show up, because that's a different flavor of ice cream they're running on offense. I'm watching it and trying to figure out in my mind, like, how to stop it. It's the whole, I brought up the Cheesecake Factory earlier. It's a Cheesecake Factory menu now on offense of what they could do. It's not just the Waffle House. Hey, let's get the All-Star Special and just ride this thing out,
One thing I do
bro.
enjoy about Cheesecake Factory is the surplus on the menu.
Oh, the menu.
Every option.
Fantastic menu. They crush it. So that Army game's the week before USC, the week before Thanksgiving. And I think that's the neutral site at Yankee Stadium.
Is it one in Yankee Stadium?
I think it's the one in Yankee Stadium. Maybe they'll perform better than the actual Yankees Stadium. So you're already taking...
The Yankees are performing.
You're taking Army right now.
I'm taking Army right now, brother.
Okay.
Right
All right.
now.
All right, I love it. $5 donation from Mr. DS. He says, who here wants to see Cone do a joke huddle up on a team running a mean pick six?
Yeah, that was...
That pick six play.
I actually put something out on social media about this. Look, if you're running for office and you're going to put out a sports reference tweet or quote or Facebook status, at least be in the ballpark somewhere. Like that, and to say you coached football... It's like, you remember we were on the set of Lady Ballers and we were going over the basketball stuff, and in the script, it was called a form, but that's a soccer play. It's called a set in basketball. There's just innate things you know if you did something. There is no way, it's either laziness or incompetence that you would put out a tweet saying, this person runs a mean pick six play. Because if an intern was running my account and showed me that, I'd be like, no. That's not, we don't say that. Like, that's not how that's said. You need to say it like this. Or you just didn't ask and they just put it out because that's what they do. I don't know. I'm not in that world.
I think that's just the extent of his football knowledge.
I think it is too. I think that is an absolute joke.
$5 donation from Andrew Mohanan. Appreciate it, Andrew. He says, you guys see any way Oregon managed to keep Stein and Lupoy long term? ? Dan seems to have to replace coordinators annually. The Saban conundrum.
Well, that's a high-class problem.
High class.
That's a high-class problem, because if they're coming to get your coordinators, buddy, that means you are balling. If you're an Oregon fan, you should want people to come try and hire your coordinators every year, because people don't hire bad coordinators to be head coaches. And if you know how to hire somebody, right, then you can somewhat recreate it depending on what the market bears. But Dan Lanning understands as much as anybody how important it is, not just for a coordinator, but a position coach to move up to a coordinator. And he wants what's best for his guys. That's why they coach their ass off for him.
$2 donation from Beck. He says, insert a topic comment here. Well, right now the topic comment would be Dan Lanning. Let's go to $2 donation from BYU, more man than you. He says, I think you know the answer to my answer to the poll. We'll get to that after the donations. Let's go to $5 donation from Ron, Mexico. Appreciate it, Ron. Shooting from the hip. What about Dion to Arkansas? Wonder how well he and Jerry could get along.
I just don't see that.
At that point, stay where you are, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see that.
I don't know.
$5 donation from Michael D. Appreciate it, Michael. I saw Miami's schedule and stats today. Indiana should be entering rage mode on Saturday. Sorry, Spartans. #disrespected. #go Hoosiers.
Man, I tell you what, Indiana's a problem. The more I watch them, the better. Where do they play Ohio State, Cone? Is it at home?
On the road.
On the road.
Talking about Indiana, right?
11-1 Indiana gets in. They get in, I think.
All right, if you donated today, guys, thank you so much. Let's get to this poll. Will Colorado win the Big 12? Yes.
No. 75%.
No.
Oh, they don't play BYU or Iowa State. They have a loss to Kansas State at 3. I'll say no. 70%.
No, 84%. Yes, 16.
All right. Well, we got to go a little bit early today. Have something big going on. Shout out to Bet Online, Raycon, Responsible Man, everybody in the chat who donated. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It doesn't take a lot of effort. We really, really appreciate it. Trying to get to that 160 mark. And like the chances of Colorado only winning 3 games this year, we're going. The ceiling is pissing me off. Gone. Can we just take the ceiling away? It would make it so much easier. Goodbye.